from the National News Studio, Sri Lanka.
Coming to you live from the National News Studio. Welcome to the news. My name is Clifford Richards.
And I'm Kasni Balachandra. Here are your top stories for tonight.
The President informed the Parliament to implement the 13th Amendment with common consensus. The Central Bank reduces the statutory reserve ratio. Water is released to Udawalawa paddy lands. The National Television introduces a series of programs to direct young generation to information technology sector. One track of the Mirigama-Vilvatta railway line has been repaired after the accident. 41 killed in a migratory vessel tragedy in the Sea of Italy.
Moving on to the stories in detail. President Ranil Wickremesinghe informed Parliament that measures would be taken properly to implement the 13th Amendment to the Constitution with consensus for well-being of the country. The President said that if the Parliament agrees, he will be ready to amend the Provincial Council Election Act as well. The President made these remarks, making a special statement in Parliament while addressing his proposals and also putting forward his proposals and future activities with regard to the 13th Amendment to the devolution of power to Parliament today.
Honourable Speaker, it's my sincere intention to progress without any political motivation, addressing the issues faced by the Tamil people in the North and East in order to secure much needed sustainable national reconciliation in the country. Reconciliation undoubtedly is an indispensable factor for Sri Lanka's own development. The government would seek to pursue in this regard continued action on the relevant issues to contribute towards national reconciliation, which I will now seek to outline. Anti-terrorism bill, following the discussions of the suggested amendments to the bill, it to be presented to the Cabinet for approval. Subsequent to that, the bill will be re-gazetted and any person can then petition the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will have the last say as regards the provisions of the bill. Anti-corruption bill, I am pleased that the anti-corruption bill was passed in Parliament the last 2 months with amendments proposed by the Supreme Court in the determination and the other stakeholders, but without a vote it has already been gazetted. Truth-seeking mechanism and the bill. The interim secretariat for the truth-seeking mechanism has been established and a Director General has been appointed. In addition, 3 divisions have been established covering legal and policy, public relations and information technology. Applications have been sought for key staff positions for the operationalization of the Secretariat, particularly for stakeholder consultation preparations of drafting guidelines and policies until the formal mechanism could commence following relevant laws being enacted. Civil society stakeholder consultations, including the UN agencies, are continuing, and when exhausted, Cabinet approval will be sought and processed to become a legal framework. The Office for the National Unity and Reconciliation Bill, ONU. ONU draft law has been submitted to the Attorney General for the certification of constitutionality, which will subsequently be presented to Parliament. Additionally, the National Action Plan on Reconciliation drafted by ONU will be presented to the Cabinet in the near future. Office for Reparations. At present, payments of monetary relief have been granted for 203 cases of missing persons from the Northeast conflict amounting to 40 million as of July 2023. The process is continuing. Office of Missing Persons OMP, I reiterate the need to uphold justice for the people of the North and East. Of the 21,374 complaints received by the OMP, investigations into 3,462 cases have been completed at present. Investigations are progressing for the remaining complaints, and this process could get accelerated following the truth-seeking mechanism being fully operationalized. It would now be appropriate for those seeking particulars of missing persons to submit detailed information to the Interim Secretariat. OMP has commenced tracking missing persons. Further action is being taken to expedite the data entering process in order for its completion within 3 months. The issuance of certificates of absence is being expedited. The OMP and the AG's department are working on a case handling policy and have drafted guidelines focusing on effective management of complaints to the previous commission and the OMP. Endorsement for the guidelines will be sought from the Cabinet. Further, OMP with 10 new panels totaling 24 are expected to be in operation from August, granting presidential pardon to prisoners involved in LTT activities. Prisoners are under the 3 categories of demand prisoners, numbering 21. Prisoners imposed with death sentence, 3, and those imposed with other sentences, 22. It has been decided to consider only the last 2 categories of prisoners for being granted presidential pardon in terms of Article 34(1) of the Constitution. In this context, considering the recommendations of the Honourable Minister of Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reform, presidential approval has been granted to remit the balance sentence and release 11 of the prisoners under the last category. Establishment of the National Land Commission. Steps are being taken to expedite the establishment of the National Land Commission and the National Land Utilisation Policy. A draft National Land Commission Amendment Law has been prepared and is being further studied, relating a policy pertaining to the alienation of state land. The Land Utilisation Policy Act is also expected to be in place by September for the NLC to be guided in their functions. The composition of the NLC would be amended to include 9 representatives from the provinces and 12 government officials. Resolution on land matters. It may be recalled that an injunction order has been obtained from the Supreme Court in 2020 on the release of residual forest lands by a special committee. Subsequently, following discussions in May this year, the possibility of demarcating forest and wildlife conservation areas based on the 1985 land use map were requested to be examined. Consequently, a cabinet memorandum on this issue was submitted and approval was obtained to enforce the release of such forest land by interministerial committee. The withdrawal of the original interim order is being processed. In the meantime, a database has been evolved for focusing on the said land use map, current land use patterns and the proposals of the divisional secretaries related to lands managed by the Forest Department in all districts of North and East. Maps containing information related to the districts have been made available for viewing by the members of Parliament in the relevant secretariats for a period of 2 months. The proposals presented at the divisional secretariat level are to be considered by the interministerial committee following the legal proceedings on the withdrawal of the original interim order. A committee chaired by the Secretary to the President will examine and facilitate matters relating to land. So issues could be taken up with that committee. A national plan for archaeology. The Department of Archaeology and the Central Cultural Fund have been informed that land demarcation excavation across the country should be done according to the national plan. The Director General of Archaeology has been instructed to prioritize and plan excavation work, identification of sites and the manner in which they should be executed. An action plan will be presented by the Archaeological Department for the activities related to identification of the areas to be conserved and no proper acquisition to take place. Roadmap for the issuance of all country passport for Sri Lankans living in rehabilitation camps in South India. The Department of Immigration and Immigration has received a list of 2,678 Sri Lankans living in South Indian rehabilitation camps. Of the aforesaid number, those with both Sri Lankan birth certificates and national ID cards can be issued all country passports. The timelines for the issuance of said document span 2 to 4 weeks. A considered decision would be needed taken with regard to issuance of all country passports to those Sri Lankans living in rehabilitation camps in South India. Resettlement internally displaced persons in the North and East provinces. The Presidential Secretariat Northern Province Coordinating Office has been established to assist the IDPs who have been affected due to the North and East conflict. Action continues to resettle IDP families in the Northern and Eastern provinces. Lands to be released by Armed Forces Northern Province. Of the total land area, accordingly 22,990 acres, comprising 817 acres of state and 22,100 acres of private land have been released. Regarding lands that cannot be presently released, a study is being carried out in this regard on the instructions of the Army Commander to ascertain the possibility of further freeing up of land in the Northern Province. Development plans for North and East. It's imperative to create extensive and practicable plans to develop the Northern and Eastern provinces, anticipating that the renewable energy could meet 70% of the country's national electricity needs by 2030. One of the key objectives of both Northern and Eastern Development Plan is to harness the region's renewable energy potential through the production of green hydrogen and green ammonia. using innovative technologies. This strategy aims to attract investment and could transform the ports of Colombo and Trincomalee as hubs for export of green hydrogen. Punarine is being earmarked to be developed as the main town for this purpose.
Now, the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka decided to reduce the statutory reserve ratio applicable on all rupee deposit liabilities of licensed commercial banks by 200 basis points from 4% to 2%, with effect from the reserve maintenance period commencing from the 16th of August 2023. The decision was taken with the view to inject liquidity to the banking system and further reduce market liquidity deficit on a permanent basis in line with the current monetary policy stance of the central bank. This reduction in the SRR is expected to release around 200 billion rupees of liquidity to the domestic money market, which would enable a further downward adjustment in the market lending rates as a result of the reduction in cost of funds of LCBs, thereby supporting the expansion in credit flow to the economy. While LCBs are expected to pass the benefit of the SRR reduction to their customers without delay, the central bank will continue to monitor market developments and take appropriate administrative measures if required to ensure faster reduction of market lending rates.
Well, the water released to the Udamalava reservoir from the Samanalababa reservoir is being distributed among the paddy lands in the area. Engineer in charge of the Udamalava reservoir, Sujiva Gunasekara, stated that about 3.25 million cubic meters of water has come to the Udamalava reservoir by 3 a.m. this morning. The cabinet has decided to release the water of the Samanalava reservoir to the Udamalava reservoir. With this move, water level of the Udamalava reservoir has increased by about 20 centimeters by this morning. Accordingly, the amount of water has increased up to 2,331 acre-feet at present. This water is released to the paddy lands through the right and left canals of Udamalava reservoir. Water was also released to the farmers in the 6th canal of the Chandrika Baba region as well. Engineer in charge of the Udamalava reservoir, Sujiva Gunasekara, stated that the water is distributed under a proper plan prepared jointly with the technical officers and reps of the farmer community organizations. Meanwhile, our correspondent says that heavy rains are experienced in the Monragal area, ending the months-long drought. Crystals of ice have also fallen in the area, and also villagers say that ice crystals were falling down for about a 2 minutes period during the period of heavy rains. According to our reporter, western slopes of the Central Hills have received rains last evening. Ginigathena, Lakshapana, Polpiti and Kitulgal areas have received rains, ending the lasting drought.
The railway department says the damaged railway line at the Vilvatta level crossing in Nirigama due to a road accident which occurred this morning has been totally repaired by now. Accordingly, railway services along the line have returned to normalcy. A container-carrying vehicle was stuck on the Vilvatta level crossing due to an engine failure. Then it was knocked down by the Polgahavela-Colombo train and the accident was recorded in a mobile phone. As the container carrier stopped on the level crossing, the driver has jumped out to save his life. Although the container was knocked down by the speeding train, no one was injured. Following the accident, the railway engine was also stuck, causing a heavy traffic congestion in the area. However, a relevant engine was brought from Ambepussa and the train was removed from the location. Later, the train services along the railway track commenced as usual, and the railway department says that heavy damage has also occurred to the railway track due to this accident.
Well, the first annual technical sessions of the ICT Lawyers Guild of Sri Lanka were held in Colombo recently on navigating artificial intelligence and also the digital economy as well. Addressing the gathering, the chairman of the ICT Lawyers Guild, Dr. Sunil Aberatna, said that it was vital for the legal professionals to make use of all advantages available on the World Wide Web and the internet. This is a vast amount of data and tools in the web. Legal professionals in Sri Lanka should learn to use these enormous resources, he says.
Our future generations would be in the context of the electronic evidence, digital economy, and AI would be in a much different sphere than all of us, technology field. We speak of paperless courts as opposed to bulky dockets and lawyers' briefs in the courthouse. We speak of virtual hearings as opposed to in-person hearings or testimonies. These are few changes that we are experiencing today. But also, and as we know, all the benefits that we can reap from these changes are also challenged with the possible abuses in the systems. So it is really important to ensure that all the benefits that we can reap in these two areas are well regulated to ensure that the abuses and the harm that can be caused are minimized, if not eliminated.
Although ICT has been part and parcel of Sri Lanka, it came very much into focus during the COVID-19 pandemic because there were regular lockdowns and many of the departments and so on and so forth were closed down, and we had to regularly advise certain corporations, departments and statutory bodies on a regular basis on economic matters. And I'm glad that even the Supreme Court have virtual hearings now, so that, and also they modified some of the rules to encourage e-filing, electronic filing. So it augurs well at this moment in time to have the inaugural sessions on ICT, and I think this is very topical for the state sector, for the Attorney General Department. Whatever assistance we can render, we will certainly render and will be of assistance to you.
The demand now is for public digital services to cut down on corruption, to cut down on bureaucracy, to make it easier for our citizens to be able to get serviced by their governments and other services. All the government services over a period of time will be transformed into this digital sphere. So now we are going into this rapidly. Should have been moving much faster, but in the next few years we will go into it rapidly. And along with this will have to be the legal structure to support it.
Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation has taken measures to telecast a new series of programs with the objective of directing the younger generation towards the IT sector. The program of this series to be telecast is from the coming week. The IT for All program will be telecast with the sponsorship of University of Moratuwa. Job-oriented courses will be introduced for the school leavers and university students through this program. The IT for All program will be telecast at 4:30 p.m. each Saturday. There's another program titled Freelancer, prepared with the assistance of Sri Lanka Information and Communication Technology Agency. This will help to direct youth for various income generation methods through the innovation technology sector. Freelancer program will telecast at 4:30 p.m. each Sunday. Another program titled Pro Plus will be telecast with the assistance of Public Utilities Commission. This program provides professional knowledge needed for electricians. This is scheduled to be telecast at 10:30 a.m. on Sundays. The media briefing to introduce these new programs was held at the Ministry of Mass Media with the participation of Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena and Technology State Minister Kanaka Hera. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that the economy can be enhanced only through productive and effective management of the existing procedures and resources. The National University System and the current education system have created youth with negative attitudes. Over 4 million school leavers and university students have no proper IT knowledge. Therefore, through the television channels, we should telecast such programs for the benefit of the younger generation.
ප්‍රධානම අභියෝගය හැටියට අපි දකින්නේ මේකේ මානව සම්පත එහෙම නැත්නම් අපේ වෘත්තිකයන්ගේ අඩුව. ඉතින් ඒක පිරිවීම සඳහා
State Minister Kanaka Hera said that the government considered the lack of professionals in the country as a huge challenge to the country. Therefore, the measures have been taken to enhance the knowledge of information technology among our young students is vital.
වැඩසටහන තුලින් හැකියාව ලැබෙයි කියන බලාපොරොත්තුව තියෙනවා.
The officials of the sponsorship organizations emphasized the timely need of such series of programs. Professor Manjula Fernando of the Public Utilities Commission said that there are about 30,000 electricians in the country, but they don't have proper quality standards. Only 10% of them possess NVQ level certificates. The aim of this program is to provide accepted certificates for electricians in Sri Lanka. Director Oral Corporation Private Limited Gamini Ranasinghe has said that their aim is to provide a training to electricians who handle the electric accessories manufactured by our company. This program initiated by the National Television can be considered as a timely program. Digital Economic Officer of the Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka, Samira Javardhana, said that Sri Lanka's digital economy is still at 4.37% of the GDP. In the developed countries, this average is over 20%, and this area can be developed very rapidly. Director of the Centre for Open and Distance Learning University of Moratuwa, Visakha Nanayakara, said that we all expect better tomorrow by having economic enhancement based on services. This series of programs initiated by the SLRC will become popular among the young generation as it helps to minimize unemployment. Representatives from the institutions of the information technology sector, media personnel chairman of the Sri Lanka Rupavahini Corporation, Dr. Prasad Samarasinha, and several other officials were present at this occasion.
Well, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that attention has been focused to make necessary reforms to increase women representation in the Sri Lankan politics. Well, the President made these comments when he met a group of students from the Girls' High School in Kandy who came to visit the President's office recently. Over 100 students of the Girls' High School in Kandy who represent the student parliament came to visit the President's office and also the parliament and also the Colombo port city yesterday. They held a mutual discussion with the President at the President's office. The President educated the students on the structure and role of the history of the President's office as a major place of taking key decisions in the governing of the country. The President also answered the questions raised by the students. The President stated that students of art stream should be given the opportunity to study science, maths and other subjects as well. The President said that he is confident of creating a future generation that can contribute to Sri Lanka on its development goals towards 2048. This is the first time the Presidential Secretariat was open for school students.
A send-off reception was held for 17 members of the Japanese Grant Aid for Human Resources Development Scholarship Program. This event was held yesterday at the Japanese House in Colombo. The Japanese Grant Aid for Human Resources Development Scholarship Program is one of the official development assistance programs to promote high-quality growth of a country through human resource development. Ambassador of Japan to Sri Lanka, Mizukoshi Hideaki extended his heartfelt congratulations on new 17 JDS fellows who are heading to Japan as scholarship students this month.
As you know, one of the main purposes of this JDS program is to receive young promising administrative officers as international students in graduate programs who are expected to be in leadership positions in the future. They are expected to make use of the expertise they gain in Japan in formulating and implementing social and economic policies after they return to home country. As Sri Lanka is trying to recover from the worst economic crisis in history, never before the reform of the administration was as important as it is now. Given such circumstances, the significance of the program and the role of every JDS fellow to learn from the experience of Japan has utmost importance. The recent visit to Sri Lanka by our Foreign Minister Hayashi well illustrates and highlights this. Further, I would like to stress that in order to overcome such complex and difficult challenges faced by Sri Lanka, it is essential for all the relevant ministries to cooperate. I sincerely hope that all JDS fellows will strengthen network among you and together endeavor to help rebuild Sri Lanka by capitalizing on what you have learned.
So JICA is doing a lot of different types of assistance. For example, infrastructure development in the area of transport, energy, power, and many other things, and providing technical assistance in the field of many things. One of the most important thing and one of the most valuable thing that we are able to provide is investment in human resources, because we firmly believe the return on investment to human resources is almost infinite. It's unlimited. We can get probably the return on investment in human resources. So that way, I think the human resource investment is the most valuable thing for not only for Sri Lanka but also for Japan and for the bilateral relationship between the two countries.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena says that lands in the upcountry area that are not properly utilized at present should be returned to the respective villagers under a new act. He made this comment at a ceremony at the Matale District Secretariat to mark the 175th Heroes Commemoration Ceremony. The Prime Minister also unveiled the statue of national hero Veerapura Nappu. This was constructed by Veera Munaravila Kappidipula National Foundation and the Matale Municipal Council. The 175th Heroes Commemoration Ceremony was held under the patronage of Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena. Addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister said that although the Land Reforms Commission has completed 50 years since its inception, it has not committed proper service to the public. Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena said that the Land Reforms Commission has completed 50 years but not rendered a considerable service to the villagers. Therefore, all lands of upcountry areas that come under the purview of the Land Reforms Commission should be distributed among the villagers who do not have the right of land extent.
International Director, Sri Lanka Business Association in Japan, and the Japanese representatives of the Ministry of Investment Promotions, Sajeev Rajaputra, says that the Sri Lankan Business Association in Japan celebrates its 26th anniversary this year. And moving on, before we move on to that item, we have another item that has just come in. Minister Dr. Bandula Gunawardena invited the Indian investors and entrepreneurs to invest on the transport sector in Sri Lanka. Well, he made this invitation when he met a group of representatives of the Jharkhand Board of Commerce and Industries who are on a visit to Sri Lanka at present. Well, the meeting was held at the Transport Ministry office premises when the two parties focused special attention to the investment opportunities existing in the commerce and industrial sectors in the both countries. The Transport Minister briefed the Indian representatives of the new investment policies implemented by the Sri Lanka's Transport Ministry. The minister pointed out that there are many investment opportunities in the lands belonging to the Sri Lanka Railway Department and invited to invest on these lands. The two parties also exchanged views and ideas in implementing Indian environmentally friendly investment concepts in the process of digitalizing Sri Lanka Transport Board and the other institutions that come under the purview of the Transport Ministry. Chairman of the Jharkhand Board of Commerce and Industries, Kishore Mantri, and a group of Indian entrepreneurs were present at this meeting. Well, that's news at home. We take a short break and we'll be back with international stories shortly.
Prima Kuttumi, Pantamai.
Welcome back to the news, and we move on to news overseas. Italian authorities say that 41 people have believed been dead after a boat capsized off Tunisia. The Red Cross says 4 survivors from the boat accident have been rescued by the Italian Coast Guard.
According to Italian state news agency, the 4 were first rescued by the Maltese-flagged bulk carrier Ramona in the Straits of Sicily. They were then transferred to the Italian Coast Guard, which brought them to the Sicilian island of Lampedusa. The boat set off on morning from Tunisia's Sfax region, which a hotspot in the migration crisis, but capsized and sank after a few hours. Lampedusa, which is closer to Africa than the Italian mainland, is a frequent destination for human smugglers and has seen its migrant holding center repeatedly overcrowded with new arrivals this summer.
Prima Kuttumi, Pantamai.
Welcome back, and moving on to the world of sport, and we head to the LPL news. Well, Jaffna Kings wins the Sri Lanka Premier League T20 cricket match against Colombo Strikers by 6 wickets, and the match was played yesterday at the Pallekele International Cricket Grounds.
Batting
on the
first,
toss, selected to bat.
Colombo.
Lots of cricketing action here and overseas as well. And on that note, it's time to end the news.